In this video, I will tell you a little bit more complicated story about the cost of pollution. So I'm taking a fuller example here, okay? And it actually is an example of what usually really happens. So in my example, I'm taking two time periods. The first one is 1960 and the second time period is 2000. In 1960, the United States was an economy that was more less internationalized. That means the international trade was more limited, and we can assume that most likely the vast majority of paper that was produced in the country or used in the country was produced domestically. So, in my example here, I started by assuming, okay, so let's read here a little bit. So we have 1960, and 1960 is where we had clean water, okay? That means more specifically, um, the a paper mill will always pollute the water. But in 1960, because the only competition that existed was domestic competition, um, companies were responsible social individuals, and they will do the right thing, knowing that if the competitors do not do the right thing, they will be punished because their competitors are domestic. So if I claim the water and I communicated that to the public and I'm selling my paper for $11 and my competitor is polluting extensively and trying to reduce the price, then I can shame the competitor and their production will the sales might be impacted. So they will have to also line up to be responsible social actors and also clean the water. In that case, they will align their sales price closer to mine. Okay. Today is no longer the case because there are international competitions and the producers and the competitors are not domestic. Okay, you cannot reach them out, you cannot affect their markets, they are not here. So I produce, okay, and so this is on the left hand side of 1960. That's when we have clean water. Okay, I have two markets now. The paper productions market, the mill, and the hydropower producers. The hydropower producers are downstream and they utilize the water, the river water, after it is released by the paper mills that is upstream. The hydropower um, uh, company or machinery needs clean water to cool down the engines, right? So as long as the water has been cleaned by the paper mills and come down clean, then everybody is happy, everything is fine. Notice that here what I have is the case where the social, okay, the marginal social cost is equal to the marginal private costs. That means that there's no externalities, okay? No externalities, okay? Negative externalities. There's no existing cost that is generated by the paper mills and that is left to bear by society. Therefore, the cost that is bear by society is exactly the same that's the one that is bear by the private producers here, the paper mill. So that's the situation that we have. The power company, okay, the hydropower company will get the clean water and have a production cost of 10 cents, okay, per kilowatt hour, okay. At 10 cents per kilowatt hour, let's say they will produce 100 kilowatt per hour. So everything is good here as well. Okay, the marginal social cost is equal to marginal private cost. In all cases, okay, at the demand level, we always have a situation where, okay, consumers actually demand and purchase based on the price, okay, based on the production cost. And so they don't discriminate, they don't know anything else. They don't know, that there's hidden cost that is not being revealed to them initially. Usually we are not very informed as consumers. If there's a pollution, as is the case here, they just know that, oh, well, we need to clean, but they don't realize that its cost is money that they're not being paying, that they're not paying. So that's what we have, okay, on the left hand side. Now, 20 years later, what happens is that um, the domestic paper mill start facing substantial competition from abroad. So we have import, right? Paper import from new competitors as Canada, Brazil, yes, China too, okay? And so the Chinese are polluting extensively, right? Polluting their water to produce at a lower cost. Producing at a lower cost, they can now produce at and produce at let's say $7 per hour, incur a shipping cost, okay, let's say of $2, and sell the paper in the US for $9. Now we have a problem where the existing paper mill has a production cost of 11, but its competition now, okay, is dumping paper on the market for 9. They have a situation to face. They cannot keep on going. So they decide to sell the mill to a new owner. The new owner is not local, right? It's not made of local families who live off a paper mill for generations, respect the environment because it's their water, right? It's an external owner that comes and think, well, as he can make money here, what I'm going to do is to separate, have a new cost structure. Now, with situation we have, when the price, so this is, we have a new supply curve, okay? So the situation we have is if demand does not change, but we continue to assume that, right? Here, what I put is a unique marginal private cost. The marginal private cost, okay, is no longer equal to the marginal social cost. The marginal social cost now is going to be higher. So I draw a new marginal social cost. That is different from marginal private cost. Why? Because in this case now, okay, the polluter no longer cleans the water before dumping it in the river. It is because it no longer cleaning the water before dumping it into a river, okay, that's it can sell, okay, drop the price from 11 that it was before. It's not a good color. From 11 that it was before down to 9. So the price is dropped. Okay. When the prices drop at the lower cost, so we are here before. Before we're here, we are this equilibrium. So I'm going to use some weird. The equilibrium here that I'm putting in yellow is the same as we start with here on the left. Okay, see? And so we are producing 1,000. The price is 11. Here I have 11. Okay, and so my productions is going to be 1,000. When the productions is below 1,000, right, is at 9, well, we'll be producing, consuming more, right? And so here we have a new consumption of 1,200. So when the price decreases or decrease from 11 to 9, now we have a new consumption, right? Because, well, we are consumers, price is lower, we buy more, right? And now, not only the new owner can reduce the price of production because they basically cut corners, right? They can also sell more and they are making money, they are competitive, and consumers originally think that they are better off too because they are buying for less what they were paying more for, and so they say, huh, we can consume more. The reality is a little bit different. Right? The reality is that um, there is the actual production cost, okay, is 13. We are back to 13 here. The actual production cost is 13. If you produce 12, okay, the real production cost to society is 13. So it's actually higher. And so we have this area here, okay, of new costs that we can compute, right? So this new cost is what? Um, it's actually this area there. Can compute. Okay, I won't get into that now. Okay, and so and the consequence for the hydropower company, okay, this is the hydropower company, is that before, okay, when we had a marginal private or social cost, okay, that's what's there. Their cost, and they're producing for 10 cents, okay, they will have a new marginal private cost that will be higher, right? And what will happen is that instead of producing 100 units, now they will be producing, let's say, 85 units, and at a higher cost of 12 cents, 0.12. Okay. So what is happening that society is bearing, okay, the cost that is above, that we are no longer paying, or that that we as society is no longer paying, okay, that's no longer embedded in the price of paper, is now finding itself embedded in the price of um, power, of electricity, hydropower. And so what happens is that because power is more expensive, okay, we will be consuming less power, right? And so our electric bill will be higher, and we fool ourselves thinking that actually paper is cheaper, but in fact it's not. Okay, so this is roughly, we can get more into details if you have questions and stuff, but these are big pictures. Now, of course, the premise here, what's happening is that, so what does it happen? What does pollution happen? Well, is that it's not the same people who are harmed, right? The people who are heavy consumers of paper are not necessarily heavy consumers of power. And so those who benefit from lower paper cost are not necessarily those who benefit from higher power costs, right? And so those who suffer from higher power costs. Those who suffer from higher power costs are in a company that use a lot of power, for example, people who live in the south and or in the desert area, Arizona, and have to use a lot of power during the summer, etc., etc. They are retirees, they don't use paper, and so they get affected. They don't know that the result of a higher cost is due to over part of society who are benefited from actually untold or hidden costs. Okay, thank you, and I will see you another time.